Welcome to Real Bass Lessons. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to practice basic reading materials, develop your left hand position, your posture, and work on your ears all at the same time. We're talking about reading with shapes. Here's a simple example. Watch my hands. What did I play? I played a major scale. Most of you can even sing it too. La, la, la. Sure, you know that. You know it because you recognize the shape and the sound already. It's the same thing as this. Beep, boop, ba deep, boop. And you know to go boop, boop. Of course, that's because you've already heard that sound and you know it. Well, we're going to talk about, and the way I teach reading in general, is I teach it with left hand position and posture so that we can work on melodic shapes and memorize those. Basic rule is, though, is you got to keep one finger per fret and no open strings. Now, I know some people say, Jim, that's a big stretch down there. How do I do it? Practice. Okay? So here's a little musical example I'm going to play, and then watch what we do to it. Here, I'll do it with a metronome. It's real simple. 2, 3, 4. Here's the second half of it. Cool. Now, you need to be reading the music, you can in your own book, but so that you're watching what this sound sounds like. And if I say go up a half step, we just move the entire thing up and we go. We start to recognize what that interval is, where the home position is. It's not here. Ah, here's the first starting note. By the way, I'm working out of this book here today. Most of you know this book, okay? Let's kick the tempo up a little bit and I'll illustrate a little bit more. Here's the next example. It's in 3/4. It's back here. Starts on a G and shows the fingering. Keep them all spread out. One finger per fret, no open strings. A 1, 2, 3. Go up a half step. I'm just reading the shape. It goes down to the root. Goes up a step. Go up another half step. Let's stop. Now this is physically easy to do, except for those of you who don't play one finger per fret. You'll have to learn to stretch. But what we're doing is we're getting our fingers over the notes so we don't have to look down at the fingerboard and try to figure out where it's at. Have you ever noticed when you look down at the fingerboard and you get lost in the music? Plus, if you'll do this up by half step, at least 3 or 4 of them on each example, you won't really want to look at the finger because if you look down, it won't be the pitch you're playing. We're just playing this shape, and then we're just transposing it a half step. And then we're playing it another half step. So again, watch this major scale. Boom, boom, boom. How about this? Boom. Many of your ear already told you. Boom, boom, be doo da. How about here's a shape. Ah, some of you know that one. Dee da da. Well, you want to learn the sounds of these shapes so that when you put your fingers someplace, your ear already knows what it's going to sound like. And yes, I know with these simple examples, you tend to memorize and go, well, Jim, I'm just sort of memorize this little thing. Well, as they go more and more and more, you'll have to read it. Let's go to the next example. I'm going to kick the tempo up. 2/4. 1, 2, ready, play. Up a half step. Here it is. One more half step. Now when you're practicing it, be sure and keep your eyes on these notes here. Learn and see what those shapes sound like under your fingers. Eventually you'll know the sound. Sure. B, bum, 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 dum, bum. Yes, you'll start to recognize in your ears this audible recognition, representation of what this physical shape looks like. Let's go do a few more here. You can make them real hard, but it's not necessary to make them real hard. Let's just look at the example or the idea of the transposition. Here's one down here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And going up a half step. Here it comes. That's the idea. Again, you be sure and do it 3 or 4 of them up, okay? Now, why did we do this? Why did what are we trying to accomplish here? Well, we're wanting to develop good technique for one thing, keeping your fingers over the notes and keeping your fingers even there when you play this note. Don't bring them up like this. Because as we play faster things, we want to be more fluent in them. We're wanting to start to recognize the shapes of these real simple little melodic lines. And then we're learning to read music. And what's really cool is we're reading music now by almost like intervallic. We're like going this little shape. See, when players play real fast music, they don't go G, G sharp, A, B flat, B flat. No, they go, and they just follow those little shapes. It's like following a winding road, driving real fast. It's really cool. Let's go a little bit further and do a couple more examples, okay? Here's one. By the way, this is the kind of reading that most of us need. Most people want to practice really difficult things, but what happens is you're not developing a process of learning to read. You're not developing a process of your hands learning where to go. You're basically just, either stumbling through something or memorizing the chunks. And both of those can be valuable, but you need to be working on a fundamental process of how to hold and move your hands and how to, by moving them up by half steps, we're reading those shapes, not the specific pitches. And man, you do this for a couple of months, every day for like 20, 30, 40 minutes, my God, your reading will just start, it'll just skyrocket, I assure you. Let's try another one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got the idea? Sure. Again, I want to say that this fundamental reading of learning the simple shapes, all without having to shift, all diatonic, that's where we need to start. I know it's not sexy, it's not bebop and it's not jazz and it's not funk and it's not Motown, but it's fundamental technique in this hand. You can't practice this kind of stuff with tons of written music because it's just too difficult. I write a lot of books and a lot of material to work on fundamental technique. And then this type of technique of recognizing these sounds and shapes, they transfer to anything and everything. It's the same thing when you're playing blues, or the same thing when you're playing funk, or the same thing when you're playing Motown. You start to see and you start to hear and recognize that shape in your hand. Again, it's beep, bop, a deep, bop. Okay, that's your ear. But what about this? Oh, you know that one now. Boo boo da da doo da da da. How about this? You start to see this little visual thing and you go, oh, I've played that a whole bunch of those shapes. And you start to recognize it. That's all it really is. Reading music presents a challenge for many, many people. And I'm convinced that's because most people start playing things that are way too difficult, and then they don't have a process. They just sort of stumble around. Okay, get this book if you want. If you got other books, fine, but make sure you're practicing simple stuff. 1 finger per fret, no open strings, and move it up by half steps. It'll start to teach you your ear. It'll start to teach you where these shapes are on your fingerboard, and your reading will just fly, I promise. Fired up.